Okay, so welcome to Diversity and Inclusion. We have an amazing show for you today. We're joined by Christian the Truth. He is a CEO, day trader, investor, award-winning certified Les Brown speaker, international best-selling author, honor roll student, and an MVP All-American athlete. So Christian actually helps people by reviewing their game plan and getting them to perform at peak levels. The Truth uses his own compelling personal story of being bullied on the football field to show that regardless of where you start or what your personal challenges may be, that anything is possible if you're willing to set goals, have a plan, and take action. So, Christian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
First question actually comes from an ed tech professional in Indonesia. Her name is Rizka. So she basically wanted to ask you, what was it about the stock market that intrigued you?
So initially, I'm not gonna lie, it was the money because what
Okay.
actually even what actually even got me interested into the stock market was at the time, so another 14-year-old black boy out of Chicago who had
Yes.
made $50,000. And so just building his portfolio and seeing that at the time I was
Hmm.
about 8, 9 years old. And
Okay.
so it's just seeing that and how he was able to do it and how easy it was for him that made me want to get interested. So yeah,
Okay.
mostly the money.
Wonderful money. Yeah. So to profit. So how, it's interesting because you're such a young man at that particular time. I mean, you still are, but how did you convince your mother to actually set up a brokerage account for you so you could move forward?
Well, first it took me, well, initially I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I decided to just do my own research on the subject and find out what I could about the stock market overall, looked up a couple terms, and then eventually came back to her and she took me seriously and saw I was actually interested in learning this and I was going to put in the work, which is what the main thing for her.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because I did see a video of you and your mom just talking about your trajectory to success. And one of the things that really stood out, especially with her approach to parenting, is the fact that uh, she encouraged you and your siblings to really dig in and express your interest in whatever you wanted to undertake. So, for example, she said, I don't really start to really move in until they actually express that they're very interested. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that and the way in which it actually informs your approach to business and investing and things of that nature.
Yeah, I knew for me, as far as my mom just getting me or letting me try different things,
Hmm.
just finding, I would say one of the main reasons is really finding my own purpose and my passion. And it's something
Yes.
I truly love, which
Okay.
I have found within the stock market and something that I can be great at. Because of course, when you're great at something, you tend to love it. So really just
Yes.
finding my passion and my gift. And so being able to share that gift with other people. But also one of the biggest things for my mom, as you probably heard in that little segment or talk we did, was she wanted to invest in us early. And so that's
Hmm.
another reason she really got us into a lot of things. So we could just branch out, try different things, have different experiences because you never know what could happen from that.
Exactly. No, I think that's very important in terms of exposing young people to a plethora of options and then allowing those young people to develop an interest and then flourish within those interests. So I noticed that you're working with people in the US and UK at this particular point. So I'm just wondering what your plans are to expand to other parts of the world, Canada, maybe Kenya, Australia, and places like that.
So the main thing is, I won't say that's necessarily stopped me, but I would say one of the main issues I've had with trying to deal with people out internationally
Mhm.
is finding a brokerage account or a broker that does serve U.S. stocks because I don't play international companies as I don't live in those countries and I
Mhm.
don't know how their economy works. So just
Yeah.
really finding brokerage platforms that can trade, allow you to invest in and trade U.S. stocks. But once we got that done, like we have in the UK, and we actually do have a couple students in Canada as
Oh,
well, and a couple
perfect.
in western parts of Africa. Just once we're able to find a broker that allows them to do that, then we're able to go from there.
That's amazing. So you're already expanding into different parts of the world. What role, because it does sound that you're very focused and you're diligent in terms of your approach to your investment portfolio. So I'm just wondering, what role does discipline play, not only in your investment life, but just in life in general?
Discipline is everything.
Yeah.
Um, I know that's something I had to learn from a very young age is having self-discipline. Of
Hmm.
course, course, I'm always working on it myself,
Yeah.
but just having a lot of self-discipline from my mind to my body to everything. And so just really staying focused so I can achieve what I want to achieve the
Mhm.
fastest and most efficient way possible.
Yeah, definitely. And so for the people that are listening and sort of struggling with establishing that type of discipline, what were the initial steps that you took in order to set yourself up for success?
So I'll say one of the things that really helps me with just getting my focus right and my self-discipline is actually number one, better eating and
Mm.
having mostly plant-based diet.
Okay.
And number two, meditation.
Meditation.
Just
Yeah, that's very
yes.
interesting that you say that because a lot of people, and you probably know this, that are extremely successful, they do exercise and they do meditate as well. So it's interesting that you're carrying those things over. So with respect to that, just talk to us a bit about your initial dream, and also your experience with bullying, because I know a lot of people that listen do experience challenges within their life, and I know that they'd be very interested in finding out the ways in which you're able to overcome those obstacles.
So my initial dream, and this is still a dream for me today, is to
Hmm.
be able to play in the NFL. What position? It really doesn't matter. My
Okay.
ideal position would be linebacker.
Okay.
I either outside or middle, it really doesn't matter. But
All right.
yeah, just playing in the NFL
All right.
is my initial dream. And as far as when it comes to the bullying situation, that was just going into a different environment. Nobody knew who I was. I kind of just came out of nowhere because you see, my mom's military, and so we
Mm-hmm.
move around, or at least we were. We moving around for like every couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just came from, I was about 5 or 6. We had just moved from Kentucky down to Florida. And if you know anything about Florida and football there is competitive from 7 to 17. It doesn't matter. And so that really whole situation with the bullying, just being the new kid, not knowing anybody, not really being in that type of environment or area before was definitely difficult to adjust to. But as the season went on, I just became better and better at being playing football, training, all of that. And actually kind of just went away, and I got better at the game as well.
Nice. That's fantastic because I think one of the things that is sort of indicative of your story is the fact that it's very inspirational. And one of the things that I think that people do appreciate as well is the fact that you're not afraid to express the trials and tribulations that you actually went through, that you are extremely successful, but at the same time, you're open in terms of expressing the things that gave you difficulty, and also the things that actually helped you overcome those particular difficulties. Now, there's a wide range of investment vehicles that individuals can go into. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on what are some of the most efficient vehicles for people that are looking to make money quickly.
Okay, so one thing you said was quickly. So depending, let's say for quickly, let's do about 5 to 10. Let's do 5 years.
Okay, yeah,
So as far as quickly, I would say the number one avenues for me has been trading options,
trading options, yeah,
getting into crypto as well,
crypto,
and
yeah.
also real estate,
Oh, perfect.
flipping
Okay,
real estate.
you're flipping real estate now. Interesting. Okay. And with those,
No, not yet. No, I'm not like doing it yet. I'm just saying
oh,
that's
that's on the agenda.
yeah, that's my next little move I'm gonna be making once I turn 18.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So that the markets are subject to ebbs and flows, and things of that nature, and there's something very interesting that Warren Buffett said just in terms of investing, that it's not necessarily someone's IQ that is a predictor for success. It's the amount of emotional discipline that they have. So I'm just wondering, in terms of your journey, have there been any point in time where you've had sort of a crisis of conscience, that you wanted to maybe make a move that was more emotional than rational? And with regard to that, how did you actually then make the right decision, and opt to focus on what the numbers were saying rather than what your emotions were saying?
Oh yeah, especially in my first year, a
Yeah.
lot of emotional decisions that
Hmm.
made me lose some money. It was
Okay.
mostly the biggest emotion for me was
Hmm.
greed. I was
Oh,
being
okay.
very greedy.
That'll get you, definitely. Yeah. So
But yeah,
when you're investing though, what are some of the things that you're looking for as predictors for success? Because as you know, markets are subject to cycles, boom and bust, and things of that nature. So how do you actually then start to identify where the opportunities are?
so for me personally, I like to go back and do a lot of historical data and just
Historical.
looking at the historics.
Hmm.
Yes, especially dependent upon the current market conditions.
Hmm.
So right now we're in the summer, see how this company performed historically during the summer. Right
Hmm.
now we head into the fall, see how, if this is depending on what sector it is, see how that sector in this company performs during the fall. Let's say even last year, back in 2020, we had the election. I went back and just looked at the overall market, see how it performed during election years. It played out exactly how it always has. Because just like with people in real life, the market, and the markets overall, history repeats itself.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to be cognizant of those changes. And I think that speaks to the discipline piece as well. So there's very interesting things that are happening internationally just in terms of the way in which the currency is flowing and being invested. And I read something very interesting that China and other countries are actually beginning to opt out of supporting the dollar as far as the a global currency was concerned. So obviously they're using oil and oil futures and things like that for the yuan. So I just wanted to get your opinion and sort of your take on that, and what you think that would be, um, or how do you think that would actually affect global markets or even the U.S. markets at this point?
I think when it comes to the US market, probably for the average American,
Yeah.
it would have a major effect. However, for people in the top 10%, so basically your millionaires and billionaires, it
Hmm.
wouldn't have much of an effect because they're already taking action now and getting into the crypto world and getting just changing and getting away from the dollar overall and just transferring everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've heard this before, but it's a transfer of wealth happening right now.
Yeah. It's interesting that that all this stuff is occurring. So how are you actually? Where do you think? Where do you see the market? 10 to 15 years from this particular point, is it going to be solely based on crypto? Or what are your thoughts on the future of the market?
I think overall for the markets, I can see it being a mixture. I don't believe the dollar's going to go away just yet. That will probably won't. It won't be. I guess you could say obsolete in my
Hmm.
own personal opinion for probably the next 25 to 30 years.
Okay.
However, the next 10 to 15, I see it kind of as a mix, but with crypto a lot more powerful than it even currently is, and a
Okay.
lot more people into it and just making moves off of that and being able to do different things with it because it is still something very new, having just pretty much been introduced around what 2007. So by the time
Hmm.
it's been as long as around as me for the most part.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think a lot more people are getting used to it, and the volatility of it as well. So, with regard to that, I'm just wondering. You mentioned in one of the videos or a couple of videos that I saw, um, about your success with swing and option trading. So, first of all, can you just explain what swing and option trading are, and then second of all, how you actually were able to use those different tools in order to be successful?
Sure. So when it comes to swing and options trading, they're actually one and the same. So I'm gonna just break it down this way.
Yeah.
First, you will have options trading overall, and then you have swing trading, which is basically like a subcategory or a style of trading that you can do. There are four main styles. But as far as just options trading overall, just I guess you could say a quick summary of what it is. It basically allows you the option, no pun intended, to
Yeah.
trade the stock. So you don't actually own the stock, but it allows you the option to trade the stock. And when you're trading, that's exactly what you're doing. You're trading with other traders. You're buying and selling options trade from other traders and just making money, just like an actual market where you're buying and selling goods. If you're a merchant and making money or losing money, you either get a bad deal or a good deal. So that's kind of what options trading is in simple terms. But the number one main difference between options trading and just normal stocks is while you're still dealing with stocks overall, you're not
Hmm.
investing in them, but you're still dealing with them. The main difference is stocks, you can pretty much hold forever as long as on like let's say a JC Penney. But options, they have an expiration date. The great thing is about it, you get to choose the expiration date.
Oh,
But
got it. Yeah.
farther expiration date, the more expensive it is. Closer expiration date, the cheaper it is because of time equity or time value. Because the more time you have, of course, the more money. I mean, the more time you have in order to make money. And
Yeah.
so with swing trading, basically you use that expiration date, put it a couple months out, so you give yourself time. And most of the time, you just let the company ride and make money for you. But here's a twist factor that comes on the options. You can play the stock market whether it goes up or down. So what I mean by that is when you're dealing with options, you have these two specific types. You have a call option, which allows you to make money when the stock goes up, and you
Hmm.
have a put option, which allows you to make money when the stock goes down.
Down. Yeah.
So you can play it either way. However, most of the time for me, I mostly play call options because I only play strong companies.
Interesting. And so when you're playing those strong companies, what are the metrics that you're looking at other than sort of historical data?
Mostly just the fundamentals and the numbers on how they perform just overall as a company. And honestly, one little thing, main thing I look at is just how historically how's it done during earnings
Hmm.
as well.
And so there's actually a lot of talk with regards to, investing in stocks that are, trading at a very, very high rate. So for example, like a company like Tesla, who's probably trading like 100 times cash flow. So for a company like that, what would be your advice to individuals that, want to get into uh, trading, a company that is similar to Tesla or
If you
Tesla
want to
period?
trade If you want to trade a volatile company like a Tesla, I would say number one, learn the current market conditions and do your research on how that affects either companies like it or has affected that company before. Again, I'm going to use an example, the election, even just
Hmm.
last year. And then number two, learn how to scalp, which is basically just a short term version of day trading or just options trading, which allows you to make very quick moves and just go off the what's called technical analysis or just go off the chart and the candlesticks and
Hmm.
other little indicators on the chart and just make your money and make your trades that way. So I would just do those main two things and you should be good. But of
Okay.
course, practice and experience plays into that. But that's just the main things when you're getting started.
Yeah, definitely. And so with that, in terms of talking about practice and things of that nature, talk to us a little bit just about some of the mentors that have made a significant difference in your life and also your approach to investing.
So as far as mentors, there are far too many for me to name.
Yeah.
But I will say all of them have helped me just learn a different aspect and improve a different aspect of my game. So one mentor helped me with my fundamentals, and even just the little tweaks and little tips can completely
Hmm.
change your game. So I
Definitely.
just want to say shout out to all of them who have helped me along the journey to help me become the trader and the person I am today.
Amazing. Yes. Because I think one of the things that you're very um, adamant about is just getting the right type of education, self-education, and be willing to actually to make that investment in yourself so you can actually, you know, reach a point of success at a rate that you probably wouldn't be able to if you just did it yourself. And in addition to that, you're also building a community as well. So, you can reach out to different people. Maybe if you're experiencing some type of um, problem, you can reach out to them and they can provide further mentorship to you. So it's very interesting as well. I saw something about your ability. You took a $2,000 investment and you turned it into a much larger sum, and I thought this was fantastic. So can you just tell us the backstory about that?
Sure. So this happened back during COVID when I initially made the trade, or me and my mom, we made the trade together. And so it was in a separate account from our main account that we were trading at the time. And so at this particular time, of course, it was a depression basically, it was a crash in the market. And Tesla, I believe, was at like 360 something. It was in the 300s if I remember correctly. And so we decided to make a call option. We just did our typical swing trade. We have been playing Tesla for a minute by now. And so we just did a swing trade. And since, like I said, it was in a separate account we didn't use very much, we just kind of forgot about it. But then later on, going into the summer, we decided to go back and check it, just looking back at our finances and everything. And we saw we was up about $35,000 at the first time.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
was like, wow.
Yes.
She was asking like and my mom called me back up. She was like, you think we should get out? I'm like, no, 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 no. It's Tesla. Let it run up a little bit, and of course, it did.
Hmm.
Another basically like 30, $40,000 hit the 78,000, and then once it hit there, pretty much as soon as we got there, I'm like, okay, that's it. Boom, got out. And funny enough, it actually like immediately began falling back right after that.
Yeah, that's amazing. But it's really interesting that you had sort of that discipline to say, okay, let's actually wait a little bit. But also because of maybe the earlier things that you've experienced, you're able to sort of pick a time in which to exit. That was, the most opportune time as well, which is a really, really, it's sort of prescient, right? To have that type of ability to gauge the market. So what are your uh
100%.
yeah, what are your sort of your top three picks right now as far as stocks are concerned, or what do you, what companies really are catching your attention?
So overall, it really just depends if it's long term or short term.
Yeah.
Long term, I'm currently looking at Nvidia, Microsoft,
Mhm.
and Shopify. And then short term, I'm mostly looking at AMD,
Okay.
Roku, and also Nvidia, which has also been very volatile, and I've made quite a bit of money off them.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. And earlier you were just talking about Bitcoin and its ability to sort of become very um, prevalent within our society. Do you expect then that there will be other ways in which to use Bitcoin? So, for example, credit card companies, people getting paid salaries on Bitcoin, and things like that. Like, how far do you think it'll actually permeate our society?
I believe personally, it's going to completely erase the dollar for the most part. Like
Hmm.
even as for when you're looking at prices, or I guess you'll say the little next generations, they don't be instead of learning the dollar amounts, they're going to learn the different Bitcoin amounts, or not necessarily Bitcoin, but whatever central coin or central coins are the main that's being used in the economy. But I believe it overall it's just going to replace the dollar. And I'm personally what I'm thinking. I'm wondering how with all the different currencies that are out there, the Bitcoins, Ethereums, um, Litecoins, etc.
Hmm.
Will it work similar to how our current monetary system is, where you got yen, yang, pesos, bolivares, the U.S. dollar, euros, etc. Where now instead of that, it's like for the U.S. it's mainly Bitcoin, for China it's mainly Ethereum, for Europe it's mainly Litecoin or something like that. So that's the main thing I'm questioning and wondering how it's going to work.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point because, when it gets to that particular, uh, situation, do you think then that, there'll be certain Bitcoins that'll be worth more? So just in terms of the way that our current market system works, our current currency works, will there be a Bitcoin that'll be the representative of all the markets, or as you're saying, will it be separated based on geography? And if it is separated based on geography, what what would the percentage of trading be, or what would be the difference between one value versus another value of a particular Bitcoin?
To be honest, I don't know. I could really go both ways.
Yeah,
Really, you could. You just actually made me think of a great point where, let's say, where different coins you can all use them in any across the world. It's
yeah,
an international based, but let's say a Bitcoin is equal to what's currently ours, are like $100 bills. Like, oh, you got $100? Okay, you got some money on you.
yeah.
Or let's say you got 5 Ethereums, it's equal to 1 Bitcoin or something like that. So that's another way it could possibly work. So we really just kind of have to see what they're going to end up doing with this.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And just in terms of things that are changing, so, a lot more people are getting educated, financially literate through self-education and things of that nature. So I just wanted to sort of get your opinion as to what you think the future would be for, mutual funds, mutual fund managers, and more institutional approaches to, building wealth.
To be honest, it could end up becoming obsolete with people doing more just self education and not really relying on outside sources or main institutions like banks. But then again, that could change because I want to say they're not necessarily the people teaching it, but they, for the most part, still run the majority of the world in finances, and most people have their money in banks. So that could absolutely change and just completely change up the everything, to be honest, and how money is moved. You never know what type of moves these people are making because they're
Mhm.
always going to put themselves at number one, where they're making the most amount of money than everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, just speaking about, self-education, what are some investment books that you've read that have made a really indelible impression on you?
My number one book is Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game. That's just
Fantastic.
for just basic investing. Yes,
Yeah.
amazing book. It's long. It's a nice read, but it's an amazing book. And then just
Yeah.
overall, I would say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That was one of my favorites.
Oh man, that's great too. Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's interesting that you mentioned both of them because I think one of the things that actually binds them together is this approach of being intentional in terms of what you're doing, and then, you know, putting out visualization, putting out positive thoughts.
You said that again.
What I said that was one of the things that actually binds both of them is the fact that they're both very intentional in terms of, their investments and their approach to life, and they're also huge proponents for visualization. So, with that said, I'm just wondering how, visualization and intention have informed some of the decisions that you've made and will continue to make.
Visualization is very important for me. I've
Hmm.
visualized myself probably a million times just doing different things throughout my life, and
Yes.
quite a bit of them have come true. Like, even funny enough, it's just a little personal. But when I be having dreams sometimes, like I'll give you one specific scenario. So
Okay.
a couple years ago, we were living in Germany, and so while we were there, I ended up having a dream. I was in this room. I was just walking, and I stood there and I looked around the room, and I didn't know where I was, of course.
Hmm.
And so actually later that same year, we came back to the States, had my war show, blah, blah, blah. And then we went to an event. It was called MobileCon. And so I'm walking through the
Hmm.
rooms. I was actually, I think I just got done speaking there, or I was about to speak. And I was just
Hmm.
walking through the room and I stopped. And it was
Hmm.
the same exact situation.
Oh
So
my goodness.
that really
Wow.
shows you like everything was the same. So that really shows you how powerful visualization is, your dreams, and just the mental space is.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I also believe too that that feeds into energy as well, right? So you put out that potential positive
100%.
energy and then you get that positive energy back. And I believe that we're all comprised of energy. And it's interesting, you attract the same frequency that you are. So if you're doing extremely well and you're successful, but at the same time, maybe you're doing something that's untoward in another part of your life, then you attract that energy. But on the other hand, if you're very successful, you contribute in the community, you're mentoring people, and then your success continues to um, flourish and perpetuate based on your intention.
100%.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you said earlier, you focus mainly on strong companies, but I'm just wondering if at any point in time you would ever look at, undervalued companies or companies that are going through restructuring and things of that nature, or you're just primarily going to focus on companies that continue to do well.
I'm not gonna lie. At one point, I wouldn't say necessarily I was looking at undervalued companies. Let's just say I was all over the place and
Okay.
just looking at any company.
Okay.
But in more recent times, in the last about 2, 3 years, for the most part, I've just been focused on the same companies. Now, I add a couple other ones that are around the same area in the same sector, but for the most part, it's been the same ones because I really want to get to know those companies the most, because the more experience I get with them, the better I can trade them and make um, just money off them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because, you know, and I get the feeling that, in the future, maybe, 10, 15 years, that you're going to be an individual that obviously have their own firm and doing well, but also sort of see you getting into the VC space, being a venture capital and investing directly into different companies. So I'm just wondering if that is even on your radar. Is that something that you've thought about? And if so, what is your sort of timeline to do that? And if not, would you consider backing somebody that wanted to start a VC or VCs that are currently in existence right now?
To be honest, I was not looking to become a venture capitalist. It was something I wouldn't mind entertaining as a possible venture in the future. If I was going to do it, it would most likely be in my mid to late 20s, early
Hmm.
30s,
Yeah.
if I were to become a VC. My main just goal and main thing I want to do with the stock market is, number one, help young Black men learn how to invest and trade,
Yes.
and just show them another way to basically make, like, I call it legal drug money, because it's so easy and a ridiculous amount of money you can make here in a short amount of time. And so just really getting or I guess you could say my peers, into
Yes.
this space as well. And then overall, one of my main missions is helping athletes specifically learn how to, of course, especially football players, learn
Hmm.
how to invest and manage their money correctly. Because about 70, if I believe 70, if not 75% of them go broke a couple years after leaving the league. And I already know the amount of work, dedication you have to even get to that level. And for some of them, they maintained it for a long time too. And just to pretty much lose it all and go back to square one after a couple years is saddening. Plus, they're some of the biggest figures in our community overall. The main people we look up to as Black people are the athletes, entertainers. That's pretty much it for the most part.
Hmm.
And so just really getting to them, having them use their platform, really show just financial literacy, financial education, self-education, and other just different practices and getting them into that space as well.
Mhm.
I believe it will really help the community overall.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100%. I would also add business people to that list that you mentioned earlier. And it's interesting because one of the things I'm hearing as you're
100%.
speaking is the fact that, you're focused on helping, contributing, but also underlying that, I think, is the fact that you also want to control your destiny as well. And I think one of the things that financial literacy does for individuals is that it gives them various options. So you don't necessarily have to feel you are segregated to one particular path. If you want to take that path, that's fantastic. But if you wanted to take different paths, it gives you the freedom and the ability to do so. So I wanted to get your thoughts just with regards to your
100%.
opinion on, our community and our ability or growing ability to control the money that is within our community. Because the last thing that I read, there's, more than $1 trillion within, our communities. But unfortunately, that money gets sieved out to, various other places. So, what can we do just in terms of not only building the financial literacy among people within our community, but also use that knowledge to build really strong foundations so generations upon generations, can move forward without necessarily having to feel that their backs are against the wall.
Number one, I would say create a system. Systems and algorithms want to grow. We've seen this from the internet to
Hmm.
even before the internet.
Hmm.
So number one, create a system. To be honest, I don't know the answer to which that system will be, but
Hmm.
I'm definitely going to be helping that project. So number one, creating a system. Number two, getting, I still can't say kids, but the youth
Yes.
together and controlling the mind space. You control the mind, you control the people.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter how much buying power or how much purchasing power we have if we, like you said, still spending it on everybody else. And then number three, of course, is the financial literacy part, which is you actually brought up a great point. Reminded me of something was
Oh, great.
business
Okay.
owners. My main thing.
Okay.
My main thing again with business owners is this. So I want other business owners to learn how to invest and control their money and trade and all that for the main reason is so they can get more capital. So they don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to get a loan. They already basically became their own loan, kind of their own way. They kind of own bank and just funding themselves to be able to grow their capital for their business. Of course, as their business grows, gets more capital, it gives them more opportunities to expand in whatever industry or genre they're in. So now, as they're expanding their business and their capital, what is every expanding in business entity? Not only they went from a small business, let's say corporation at this point, a very big corporation. What does every corporation need? Employees. Where they get those
Exactly.
employees from? The Black community. So
Hmm.
now you have two options. You can begin having the Black people spending within the Black community. We have these Black businesses all over the place, and also knowing just information about the Black businesses as well. That's another main takeaway.
Yeah,
But you
definitely.
have Black people employing Black people, supporting Black people, and boom, you create a circle of wealth.
Exactly. Yeah, it's for generations. So, speaking of that, tell us about some of the courses that you offer and the ways in which you're actually helping individuals become more successful financially.
Sure. So I have a couple of courses. Number one, you have my Stocks 101 package, which gives you the just basic fundamentals of just people that just want to invest. They don't want to get into trading at all. They don't want to do options. They just want to invest. They just want to know what they need to look at, what they need to do, what steps they need to get started. And it's just a basic beginner's course for just long-term investing, finding what I call your circle of 20, top 20 companies,
Hmm.
and then just build, just let things go. Just let it move. Then you have the gold package or Black Wealth Matters, which teaches the same thing as Stocks 101. And on top of that, it teaches you options, specifically swing trading, position trading, and how to just do it long term so you can be making passive income on the side and you're still trading options. So it is a bit more work because options, of course, is more stuff to learn. But
Hmm.
overall, it's definitely worth it long term. And I would say one of the biggest things I love about swing trading, just position trading
Yes.
overall, especially if you have multiple positions, is since it does take time. Number one, you don't actively have to be like making moves. Like, you can look at it. That's about it. Like even for me, I cashed out a couple of my swing trades and position trades today. I wasn't doing much. I was looking at it. I made a couple of day trades, my other accounts, but other than that, I wasn't doing much. I was looking at it, checking on it, seeing if this was a good opportunity for it. Maybe if I was down a little bit, maybe I should get out. But nope. Decided to be patient, wait. And so one of the best things, or I want to say one of the best feelings or benefits is you can get a large amount of money in a, I would say necessarily a short amount of time, but technically it is because you cash out. Let's say most of your trades are all one major time, get a large amount of money. Boom, you could have pretty much made your money for the year in like 6 months
Hmm. And to do that,
because the
obviously,
more time
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and because of the time value and the time equity, of course, that gives it, I know I keep saying this, but time to make you money. And so it also allows you to make grander amounts of money. While it does take more time, it's worth it. So it allows you to make grander amounts of money. And so in the meantime, you can be working on your business, or if you have a job, just doing your normal job and boom, cash out, take a large sum of money and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, you know, self-education definitely is extremely important. So I'm wondering, because you said, it takes a bit of time. So what amount of time should people invest just initially in order to get themselves, acclimated to um, the various fundamentals in order to make trades confidently?
I would say on average, when first getting started, I would say a minimum of 2 weeks if you're trading,
Okay.
especially if you're day trading, or even if you're swing trading, I would still do 2 weeks. For investing, it'll probably take you a week. You're not really doing as much with investing. It's kind of like you know what you're looking at, you know the signals, and boom, you make your investments and kind of just leave it there. But trading is a different game. So I would take at least 2 weeks to trade, get the experience with trading, and you can do that without any type of monetary risk through paper trading,
Hmm.
which a majority of brokerage platforms offer. Like I know E-Trade they offer as well. So you can just paper trade, build your experience, make your mistakes there, and just really know what it feels like to trade. Because one thing just talking about it, seeing other people do it, but like anything, once you start doing, it's like, oh, okay, this is what it's like. It's like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So uh,
You know,
yeah,
and
just
it,
really getting into the paper trading space first.
Yeah, and when was that for you? So for example, you're doing the paper trading and you're approaching and you start to see yourself become very successful. So what was your timeline? I know that you're saying 2 weeks. What was your timeline for, educating yourself and then going into the trades? And from when you started the trading, what was your timeline to actually see some significant
It took
success?
me about what was it? It took me about 2 months before. Because the funny thing is, I actually didn't even start off paper trading.
Interesting.
I know it
Okay.
sounds a little weird considering I just talked about it, but I didn't start off paper trading. I went
Okay.
straight into the real thing. I wanted to get to the money.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
But it took me about 2 months to really just get into everything, really get the grooves of everything, know all just the terms and what everything meant and what to look at. And so once I started doing my own research, finding my circle of 20, then I would say when I really got into trading, it was actually after my first year, just basic investing. So when I was about 10 years old, when I really got into
Oh.
trading, began making my first trades.
Interesting. And then, it's wonderful that you actually were able to do that because I think a lot of times what holds people back is sort of these self-perceived weaknesses that get drummed into individuals, such as, oh, you can't do it because you're this particular age, or you can't do it because you come from this particular background. So, what was it that actually allowed you to eclipse those types of concerns and get right into, as you say, making the money?
I would say for the main thing for me is it was really I was naive to be honest.
Really interesting. Okay.
Because I never really dealt with like any types of like large sums of money or anything like that. Didn't know,
Mhm.
and at first, of course, didn't know anything about the stock market. Understood it, but still didn't have any experience with it. So just naivety, ignorance. And so since I had that, there really was no fear or concerns at first. But naturally, for me, I'm a very defensive-minded and conservative person. So I wasn't
Mhm.
making like I wasn't making insane trades like putting like 20, 10, 20 contracts. One, I couldn't afford it because I only had like $1,000 account. But
Yeah.
I was just trying to go crazy and basically blow my account on one trade. And I
Exactly.
was just starting off very small, just like I said, very conservative, just making my amounts of money every month. And I was cool with that. And so then when I got really into day trade, because I started off with swing trading for the most part, just building that
Mhm.
experience slightly. And then once I
Mhm.
really started into day trading, that's when I became a lot more aggressive, mainly because it was cheaper. So I could
Interesting.
risk it.
Interesting. Okay. So you were able to risk based on the price.
Yes.
Okay. And so with that said, so what is your ratio then? So are you willing to enter volatile markets if, for example, the pay is 2 to 1, or what? How do you move forward as far as the ratio is concerned in terms of determining the amount of money that you will actually put forward or invest?
I actually don't necessarily have a ratio. I use a different type of formula of
Okay.
math in order to do it. I can't necessarily put it out here because it takes quite a bit of time, but
Yeah, no
I don't
problem.
necessarily use ratios, but it's one of the determining factors that I use in order to do my risk to reward
Yes.
uh, is mainly just using the ask price and number one, how much do I believe in the company and how much
Okay.
do I believe in my trade? I believe that's the number one thing that you have to do as a trader is believe in your abilities. If you're not confident in your abilities, you are going to make bad trades. If you're emotional, you're going to make bad trades. And of course, that's going to cause you to lose money. So number one, just really believing in my trade and believing in my abilities. And number two, just going off the historical data, seeing what makes sense, see what the numbers say, and just going based off the fundamentals and the technicals. And the main thing is it's depending on what type of trading style that I'm using as far as risk to reward. Let's say I'm doing a swing trade, right?
Hmm.
So it's a little more long term. It's a lot more, it's a bit more expensive. I'm less likely to make a swing trade if I know based off the asking price, basing off of how much this company moves. I'm only going to make $2,000 to $3,000 within 4 months. I'm not going to do that when I can, let's say, do day trades or scalping, where I can make a couple $100s here and there on multiple different trades and basically make the same amount in a shorter period of time. So it's really just based off a number of different factors.
Perfect. Yes. Um, yeah, and so there's different factors definitely inform your type of decision. So you mentioned scalping. What is scalping?
So that's just another short-term version of day trading,
Okay.
where for the most part, you put your expiration date the same day. You open up a candlestick chart and you put whatever indicators that you use and you trade off of that. And so, yeah, it's like if you go on YouTube or whatever, you look at like trading live stream, the people, they be having all the different charts and stuff and have a whole bunch of stuff and tabs open on like Windows or Mac, whatever they use. Most people use
Yes.
Windows. I don't. But that's basically what most people are doing. They're doing day trading, which is a little different, at least in my own personal definition. Where day trading, let's say I get in at 10, I exit out at 2, or scalping it's a couple minutes. I get in at 10, I get out at 10:05. Like that's scalping.
Oh wow. Okay. In and out basically. Um, so you actually have such a wealth of knowledge with regards to investing and business and entrepreneurship. I know that you've written a book. I'm just wondering, what your reaction would be if you had the opportunity, to write a book with an established publisher, just in order to help young people and others become more financially literate.
I would be very happy, be very excited, to be honest. Because, like I said, my main thing is just helping my peers get into this
Yeah.
game and really understand finances. Because it's not just the stock market; like you just want to understand, and it's not necessarily just the market in just the U.S., but understand how finances and different things from things happening in China affects your money and affects what's happening here locally, even in your, no matter where you live, whether you live in a big city or a small town, like seeing how things on a global scale and not from a necessarily box viewpoint or tunnel vision.
Definitely. And I'm just wondering, sort of as a last question, before becoming more wealthy, so beyond becoming more wealthy, what type of impact would you like to make in our community and the world at large?
I would say within our community, having have a very efficient, effective system that gets results that can be used for generations, no matter what type of currency it is, whether that's dollars, whether that's crypto, it doesn't matter what's being used. It's effective in every era, every generation, and can be used to maximum efficiency.
That's
So that
amazing.
would be my main thing. And the world at large, really just helping issues like global hunger, world peace, homelessness. That's a very big thing for me. It's
Hmm.
homelessness
Yes,
and going into projects to be able to build a certain type of homes or at least give people an opportunity to get a roof over their head and where they can get help if they're on drugs or alcoholic and get the help they need, or if they're just homeless for whatever circumstance causing them to be, they have a roof over their head to be able to get back on their feet. And they're not having to go to a shelter, or they're not just they eventually, let's say, if they were an addict, but they recover and get back on drugs. It's just a whole bunch of situations. Just allowing people to have a home and have a place and that they can call home, they can go back to and have peace.
That's amazing. So, Christian, thank you so much for joining us. I think you're going to make an amazing and impactful, contribution to not only with our community but also to the world. So, we wish you more success, and we look forward to seeing the types of amazing things you'll be part of in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.